Alright, here we go. Again, on shaving and doing something productive for a change. To shave is often as practical an activity as the writing down of one's thoughts. It's a cleaner affair and has been known at times, shaving that is, to improve one's chances of finding steady work. On realizations of fictional conversations. Snippet. Knock knock. Hey. Hey, what's going on? Nothing. Scribbling. What do you have today? Okay, listen. It's like this. Say, write the dog stories down. Like, for example, Bobo just bolted across the street for no reason. The good and the bad, so on and so forth. Not how smart they are, but how dumb. Not how much like humans they are, but how much more like dogs. That's a great idea. Excellent. Run with it. The unhidden life of dogs. Yes, thank you. Just as soon as I can get a block of time. Fuck. I'm too damn busy. I can't work, man. I wasn't meant to work. Me too, man. Me too. On losing one's grip. My misery is so complete and so also empty. I am totally unable to think of one good example of anything. I can make no good metaphors. No decent explanations for things because I've lost. No decent explanations for things because I've lost my hold on what things really are. What they're like, what use they have. I'm a bit like a table maker who's gotten so used to throwing everything in the cabinets, he knows no longer how a table is to be used. I'm a bit like a table maker who's gotten so used to throwing everything in the cabinets he no longer knows how a table is to be used. There are no more categories at my fingertips. I have only particular items, individuals, no faculty or method for classification. I know nothing of the phylum or order of things. The only family I know is my own. I am helpless to expedite anybody's simplest task. Like a dying poet, I can only give my look at me and hope it is received. So a little like Harold Brodkey. Harold Brodkey, who was the dying poet, now passed away. The dying poet as of 1997 or 98. Alright, here we go. This is a big one. On stellar book jacket praise for an early draft of the aforementioned road novel. Stellar book jacket praise for the aforementioned road novel. It's the story of a road trip that isn't really the story of a road trip. A dry account of a disappointing excursion that recounts the daily non-events as artfully and dramatically as it does the eventful events, showing us a narrator whose hesitant, romantic nature stubbornly feigns strength and control when the evidence, his own, paradoxically suggests that he has very little of neither. Showing us a narrator whose hesitant, romantic nature stubbornly feigns strength and control, suggesting that he has very little of neither, very little of either. This is Generation X romantic mystery novella that painfully, though politely, takes you along on an epic road trip with your two supposedly with your two supposedly opposite best friends, spinning the tale out in such a way so as to enhance the real, often unsteady drama of the narrator's personal life, while simultaneously showing how a would-be adventurous journey like the all-American cross-country road journey can sometimes end up in the backseat when greater issues like sex, love, and friendship are on board. This is a young romantic suspenseful account of his own romantic reckoning, wherein the narrator learns far more about the nature of his romantic sensibility in the retelling of his story than he ever could have known at the time of the coming-of-age adventure. A strange, ambiguous characterization of an analytical basket case, with an eye for memorable detail and a deeply funny, self-deprecatory sense of humor that suggests a tremendous self-knowledge on the part of the author. A sensitive, careful, suspenseful account of a somewhat anticlimactic Western road trip, wherein the narrator takes you and your two fellow Easterners down and out on a southern route to the vast and promising West. In the course of the retelling of the archetypal American vacation, the engaging narrator dryly offers the details of a painful, if somewhat adolescent, personal reckoning. This is a short, highly controlled work that contains the best elements of strong, memorable stories, vivid detail coupled with revealing omissions, and a clarity and rhythm of language that achieve perfect pitch and a startling ambiguity. It's a 90s fable, rich with intelligence but cleverly told for a new audience with perhaps a slightly shortened attention span. It's the story of a 9,000-mile road trip told so genuinely and strangely as to suggest the narrator has done the whole distance on foot. A story of post-adolescence and unglorious personal discovery. Funny. Really damn funny. This story simultaneously exposes a vulnerable, thoughtful nature while comically exploring the side of the male psyche that heavily, though proudly, suffers the slings and arrows of strained loyalties and romantic preoccupations. The story of a young man in love and on the run from a few troubling uncertainties and insecurities. The story of a guy who has perhaps only recently come to terms with the imperfect, often spastic nature of life. The story of a narrator who is wiser for the wear and tear, but not as of yet entirely unembarrassed by himself. This is the story of a young life, no doubt a life on the road, in the making, wherein for the ever-elusive Dan, maybe the absence of objective truths in life is the only real truth worth finding. The absence of objective truths in life is the only real truth worth finding. This is a quiet conversation with the always adversarial forces of pride and humility, and an account of a romantic realization that runs a line right from the narrator's heart to the reader's. In so doing, raising greater issues like our intense primal need for companionship in life, and also the precarious balance that keeps readers and storytellers alike on their toes. A subtle, ingenious work that nods to a strange new America that has changed only as much as we'll let it. This is that rare story that knows a dose of quiet, understated laughter can sometimes help, if not cure, what ails us. A discreet story that both dramatically confesses and dramatically holds back. A story with a trustworthy artfulness and eloquence not often found in the narrators of our recent fiction. It's a story that hooks us with revealing and comical banalities and then holds us with a uniquely dark but hopeful voice. A highly personal sounding account of a fine trip turned somewhat sour. It's a it's a highly original Gen X confessional that, by virtue of its subtlety, makes a convincing statement about the relationship between the oft-talked-about collective consciousness of 90s America and our own enduringly private selves and personal haunts. A deliciously told story that achieves a wonderful opaqueness and strangeness and ambiguity through the precise and artful way in which the vivid, read that over again. A deliciously told story that achieves a wonderful opaqueness and strangeness and ambiguity through the precise and artful way in which the vital details are delivered to us. A story of familiar places and familiar situations, told in a wholly original, almost hypnotic, unfamiliar manner. Simply recommended. This is an American story we haven't heard before. Told smartly, revealingly, humorously, and efficiently. A short novel you may want to sit down with for days on end after turning the last page. Parentheses, the kind of story you read again immediately after finishing. Have you ever had two friends that you thought for a while were total opposites, but in time perhaps decided that maybe the two of them have more in common with each other than they do with you? Have you ever felt like you were caught in the middle and simultaneously caught way out on the outside? Simultaneously caught way out on the outside? All right, 3 more pages, and then we're done with this. On testimony from an unidentified bystander. He just jumped. He jumped right in. There are only 2 options now as he sees it. He'll either become known as the hero of the life raft, or he'll simply, at the very least, be saved.